Welcome to the Authentic Life Connection podcast. I'm your host, Seth. I'm a master certified life coach, author, personal trainer, and nutrition specialist. For over a decade, I've been helping people with their dreams and goals for their life and health. I spent many years watching people get frustrated with their journey in life and giving up on taking actions towards their goals. So I dug in deep to find answers to why so many of us face this same frustration and struggle in life. So in this podcast, we're going to dive in deep on topics surrounding what it means to consistently live a fulfilling and authentic life, where you are unstoppable in taking action towards your dreams and goals. So the only question is, are you ready to start living your most authentic and fulfilling life once and for all? Then let's get started, shall we? All right, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. For those of you listening in for the first time, welcome. You're going to enjoy the topic that we have today because it's one that I talk about all of the time. We're going to talk about it again today. It's a topic that is so crucial for life fulfillment and crucial for us to exercise the only power that we truly have as human beings. And it's something that I've talked with you all about many times in many different contexts before. It's not something new that we're going to talk about today. However, it's something so important that at the risk of annoying you all talking about it yet again, here I am. We're going to talk about it again. And just so you all know, this is how important this is for me, that you all understand this. We're going to talk about this from a slightly different context today, and I'm hoping this kind of drives it home for some of you all. We're talking about the importance of decision-making power and how it's not only crucial that we own our decision-making power, but when we are exercising our decision-making power, we're making our decisions from a place of want, not from a place of not wanting. And this is so crucial, and I've said it in so many different ways for you all, but I'm still seeing so much of it in the world around me. I'm still seeing so much of it in friends and in family, and it just lets me know that maybe there's still not enough awareness about it. Maybe it still hasn't quite been said in the way that drives it fully home. So I'm hoping today, I'm going to put this into a new context today that I'm hoping makes some more sense of this for you and helps you to understand and grasp why this isn't something that we want to keep ignoring. I've told you all so many times before about some of the issues that come along with making decisions from a place of scarcity, fear, doubt, shame. And today, I want to focus in on one of the biggest issues that we create for ourselves when we're making decisions from this space in a very specific context. And I think right now is a really great time to share this because we're in a place now where a lot of people are waking up after COVID, after a lot of other things that have been going on, the threat of another possible recession, a lot of things going on in political climates and in social climates around the world that are causing people to wake up and realize that they want something different for their life, that how they're showing up for life now isn't working for them anymore. And it's both a good thing and slightly dangerous because yet again, we're in a space now where we're making decisions, we're scrambling for solutions with our environment, climate crisis, wildfires getting out of control, pollution getting out of control, things with governments getting out of control, things with economies getting out of control, carbon emissions, all of these different things, COVID that have been going on, and people have yet again waited until they felt like life was bad enough to be like, okay, now it's time to change. Basically, we're at a space now where a lot of people are agreeing the world has gotten bad enough for people to finally seek change. And here is what I want you all to notice in this time. We have political leaders that have been burying their heads in the sand about the climate crisis and about the crisis with our resources and the crisis with our economy and the cycles it keeps going through. and the issues that we have with COVID and what that means about our healthcare system. And so many people, so many of these political leaders have waited around until things have reached crisis state before they searched for solutions. And I want you to look at how these political leaders are approaching the crises that we are facing now, versus the solutions that scientists and politicians who have seen this coming for decades now and have been advocating for change for decades ago, notice their kind of solutions that they're coming out with. And you'll notice a difference in the way that these two camps of people go about their decision-making process. And this is the process that makes all of the difference in the outcomes that we will now produce. And it applies to our personal lives as well. And that's why I'm talking about this with you all today. But before we get there, I think it's important that we address something slightly different. It's this idea of the fact that a perfect solution out there exists. The ones where they don't cause other problems in the future. And we avoid making changes in hopes that we're going to find that perfect solution. And then we'll make the change, right? Because then it won't cause any more problems. And this, again, stems from that fact that the only reason why we change is because things are bad enough. So if we change, it means it needs to be perfect so that we don't get bad enough again, right? So we're looking for perfect solutions. And my friends, here's what I want to tell you about this. Before we dive into the real meat of this topic, the first thing I want to address here is this. Perfect solutions do not exist. We don't actually want them to exist. It's kind of odd that we've gotten to a place in time where we believe that a perfect solution is what we actually want. The world is 50-50. Life is 50-50. If we're searching for perfect solutions, we're searching to resist life, and good luck with that. You've seen where it's brought us every time we've tried to do it. Life is life. The world is the world. It's not all good. It's not all bad. It is equally both at all points in time. Life and circumstance is neutral. We make that into what we call problems that then we solve. And that's not a bad thing. But just as soon as we solve a problem that we created by seeing something as bad that is happening, that we want to solve, guess what happens? The 50-50 shifts. A new problem arises that takes the place of the part of the 50% that we shifted to solve for. We will never get to a place where the world is 100% good, pleasant, and comfortable. And believe me, we don't want that. I promise you that. I know that many of you think that this is the goal, but it's not the goal. If life ever got to this point, it would be so frustratingly boring and unfulfilling, and we would be just itching at the seams, scratching and ripping at the seams to try and find something that needs change. Life is designed to be experienced through contrast. We need the 50-50. So we don't solve problems for the purpose of a perfect solution where there will be no problems that come up. We solve problems to learn and to see what we are made of and capable of. We solve problems because we are alive and in this life, and we're able to analyze and create change and learn for it, not because we're eventually going to create a world that is perfect. Nature by design is not made to be this way. And it is so important for us to see that. We solve problems to learn more about ourselves, more about the world around us, more about our story of it, and why we feel the way that we do about the world around us. This is why we solve problems. And every time we solve a problem, new ones will arise to take the place of them. And I think this is the first most important thing that we want to recognize before we continue here. Is that solving problems is not about making less problems in the world. There will always be 50-50. It is about changing what the problems are in the world, and maybe with the hope that we'll have problems that we know how to handle and account for, versus catastrophic problems that will wipe out life on Earth. But the goal is never to get to a point where there are no problems. And I see, like, subconsciously, this is the story that's going on for so many people. And we keep resisting solutions because we're like, oh no, that'll create this problem. Okay, we'll solve for that one then. You know, we knew when we created nuclear power plants that it was going to create nuclear waste that we didn't know how to solve for. Now we're at the point where we're needing to deal with that. We're needing to solve for that. We have a new problem to solve for. When we created the car to solve for issues that we were having with using horses for transportation. When we created the car, we solved one problem, we created another. And the solutions that we will come up for to solve for the problems that cars created will create others. That's not the point of creating solutions. And I feel like we trap ourselves so many times in being able to create solutions about what we want in life because we're resisting the fact that there will be problems that come along with this solution. We're resisting life. We're looking at what we don't want instead of what we do want and making decisions from that space. And this is super important to see here. Because when we go about problem solving from the perspective of, oh, that solution doesn't work because it's probably going to create problems and over here, then we put ourselves in a position of no change or growth. Because no matter what solution, it will always create problems. And this brings us to what I really want to discuss today. This idea that when things are bad enough, we change. And a lot of the reason why we wait until things are bad enough to change is because we're resisting there being problems in the world. And we're kind of like, no, I think I can hold out on this problem until it just gets bad enough where I can't stand it anymore, and then we'll look at other problems. Then we'll create solutions that'll create other problems. But until it's bad enough, we're not going to do that. We're just going to sit here, we're going to keep reacting to life until it gets bad enough. And that's what we all use this sort of way of decision making. We've been taught to use this way of this whole concept of if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, my friends, everything is broken and also not broken. So when do we fix it? When do we fix it? Why is it that we've taken this very passive, reactive approach to making this kind of decision in our life? And you see the results of it in the world around us, in governments, in our environment, in our economies, that they just wait around until things are so catastrophically big and bad enough that finally the people or the governments or whatever stand up and say, enough is enough, we're doing something. And here's what I want you to notice about these movements for change. So many of them are very short-sighted, violent, reactive, and about getting away from an uncomfortable feeling only to find that we recreate it later. But we don't see that because we are so short-sighted. And our focus is on getting away from the discomfort of the now. And some of you all might be thinking, well, yeah, isn't that the point of changing? To get away from uncomfortable feelings? And the truth is, we have been changing because of this. For a very long time, for thousands of years, this is how humans have chosen to change. And a lot of it has to do with the biology of our brain. Because we evolved in a time where getting away from discomfort was essential for us to survive. But we no longer live in a time where that is essential for us to survive. And in fact, avoiding discomfort is what's killing us now. It's the exact opposite. And we don't know how to account for the fact that our brain is still urging us constantly to stay away from discomfort. And so we're not making decisions in our life, we're not making changes in our life to grow towards what we want because we're still relying on that reactive part of our brain to tell us what to get away from that's uncomfortable. And what we end up doing is we just keep recreating the same problems over and over in different ways. We've done it with racism, we've done it with sexism, we've done it with body image. Over thousands of years, racism is not a new thing. It's not a new thing that's only dealing with certain races. It has been since the dawn of time. I mean, if you believe in Christianity, look at the Bible. The second book of the Bible, the book of Exodus, is all about the Jews trying to end racism, end the racism of the Egyptians, looking at them as basically just a means to creating labor and creating an empire for them. Racism has existed since the dawn of man. And yet we're still struggling with it thousands of years later. Even though we keep, quote unquote, coming up with solutions for it. Well, why do you think that is? It's because we keep waiting for things to be bad enough before we change. We react from that primitive part of our brain to things being bad enough to get away from before we create change. And most of you are thinking, well, okay, so is there another way to change then? And that's what I want to talk about today, because the answer is yes, there is. And this is why I and so many life coaches out there are helping our clients to see and implement in their lives how to create change in a way that is fulfilling for life and creates lifelong change, not temporary change that's just about getting to a result and then slowly cycling back to the old behavior again. We can change because of where we want to go, not because of what we want to get away from or somewhere we don't want to be. And you might be thinking, okay, but if I get away from where I am, I'll end up where I actually want to be. And sadly, my friends, know this isn't the case. This isn't how it works. There are so many possible outcomes of where you could land when you're running away from something that you don't want. And here's the thing. Even if you land in the one where you would want to be, if you did not already know where you wanted to be and where you are heading towards and why, when you land in that place where you're actually wanting to be, guess what's going to happen? Problems will still exist there. Problems you have not faced before that are unfamiliar. And if you are not clear on why you want to be there and where your next step is and why you're heading there, where you're wanting to go, you will not know how to solve for those new problems to head to where you want to go. You will not know why it is important to solve for the problems in the new place to head in the direction you want to go, because all you wanted to do was to get away from problems. So when your goal is to get away from problems, we're thinking from that part of the brain, that primitive part of the brain that doesn't have access to our executive functioning. That's all about reactiveness. And we're thinking from that space of getting away from problems. So then you end up in a new place that also has problems, whether it's where you want to be or not, you don't know. And then you have these new problems with no direction to solve them in, and no idea why you are in this unfamiliar place with these new unfamiliar problems. And the goal, remember, is to get away from problems. So guess what happens? This time the primitive brain steps in all of its reactiveness to get away from problems, and it can at this point in time actually give you a direction to go in. And guess where that direction is? Directly back to the familiar place that it knows how to be in and react to. The familiar problems that you just ran away from, because your primitive brain doesn't know how to plan ahead. It only knows the stories about the past that it's already reacted to. And it already knows, well, we survived that, we lived through that, so at least we know we can stay alive there. These new problems, I don't know about that, because it can't see into the future about a future vision of purpose and a plan that you want to implement. So it's just like, oh, there are these new problems here. We wanted to get away from problems, right? Well, I know this place where we can go. Well, there's still problems there, but at least we know how to handle them, right? We've been doing it for 20 years. And so we end up right back in those cycles. And then we're like, oh, well, no, see, I'm not capable of change. I always end up right back here. There's something wrong with me. I can't change my life. I'm just not one of those kind of people. This is why, my friends. When we are making decisions about getting away, the primitive part of the brain is taking over. It is about fight or flight. That part of the brain does not have access to executive functioning, which means knowing what is important, planning, and knowing how to take action towards the plan and following a plan. It has no idea what dreams or true desires are. The primitive brain has no idea about that. It just knows. Seek comfort, seek certainty, seek pleasure, seek connection, and avoid pain, which is, to the brain, because I know some of you all will be like, oh, well, I'm not in any pain. To the brain, uncertainty and discomfort all look like pain to the primitive brain. So in a new place where you did not choose to be there with any sort of intention, you were just trying to get away from somewhere else, the primitive brain will finally come up with a place to go And that place to go is back to the familiar place where it's like, well, we've been there before. I know how to react to that. If it can't avoid pain altogether, it'll choose the familiar pain. The discomfort of that life that you so badly wanted to get away from. And this is what keeps us in these cycles of being like, well, I thought I changed, but now I'm right back here and I've gained the weight back and I'm right back to eating this and I'm right back to drinking that and I'm right back to staying up on TikTok all night and I'm right back to doing this again and I'm right back to screaming at these people and I'm right back to doing this behavior. And we think, oh, I'm just not capable of change. I'm just not one of those people. When we make decisions based on things being bad enough to change, we have activated the reactive decision-making process in our primitive brain as being what takes control. It has no access to our true desires. It has no ability to have a vision of what we want for life, what we want for our countries, what we want for our world. It just knows what to avoid, to run away from, and to seek instead pleasure, comfort, and safety. So what is the solution here? What is the solution? We keep doing this. We've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years. And it's what I've been saying all along. And I'm beginning to sound like a bit of a broken record here, but I'm going to say it again. The solution, my friends, is authenticity. Why authenticity? You might be asking that, and I get it. You might be not connecting the dots here, so let's connect them together. With authenticity, we know what we are wanting in this life, not what we should want because we're trying to avoid people thinking certain things about us. That's again about trying to get away from something. Not what we have to want because there's a version of a story of life that we have to survive because, that's what we know, but what we truly want for this life. When we know that, when we know who we want to show up as in this life and why, and how it's creating what we truly want out of life, when we know what is important for us and why. And again, not what we think we should show up as and what we think they should want. When we are in that truly authentic space, we are put on this planet with true and authentic desires by design. It is no accident that you were born the way that you were born, in the time that you were born, with the family that you were born with, in the place that you were born. That was not by accident. And it wasn't by accident that you have the true desires for life that you were born with. And when we are coming from that space, we can make decisions about what we want. And granted, when we were kids, our understanding of those true desires and our expression of them was very misunderstood. It was very misguided because as kids, we don't have full access to that executive functioning yet. We're still very much living in that primitive brain. But what's interesting is while we're living in that primitive part of the brain, we're also the closest to being able to see what is truly and authentically important for us while we're absorbing all of this inauthenticity. And so what happens is we slowly get disconnected from that vision of our true purpose. And by the time we have access to that executive functioning, we're either not using it at all, or we're using it to create a life that we feel like we should or have to or need to want. Not what we truly want anymore. And authenticity is about using our responsibility as adults to get back to those true desires and remember what they were and why they are so important for us, so that we can again see what we are here to truly create in this life. And then with that clear vision, we change our lives to how we show up in them, not to get away from pain, because pain will still be part of the deal, but because of the exciting vision of purpose that we have, that we know that we are here to contribute in this life. And we are willing to step into that pain of growth because we are going to experience the pain either way. But suffering is when we resist experiencing pain. The pain of growth that we are designed to go through to create what we were put here to create. That's suffering. And there's a difference between pain and suffering. You are gonna experience pain either way, but so many of us out here are experiencing suffering because we're resisting the pain of the growth that we were designed to go through. The vision of purpose that we were sent here with. We really want to let go of this idea of waiting for things to be bad enough to change, because it's time that we reconnect with our true selves, our authentic core values, so that we can see our true desires for life and why we want them. Why it is important for us to want them. Not just for ourselves, but for what we are bringing to the world and why we are here to. Like I said, we are not here by accident. We don't have those desires by accident. They're not some selfish impulse that we have. Now, they show up as selfish impulses when we resist them and inauthenticity comes in. And so I get why a lot of us think that those desires are selfish. But when we get to the true reason why we have those desires, then we can see how we truly want to show up and express them in a way that is so selflessly abundant, but also brings us fulfillment in life. So many of us say that we want to be selfless, but we're doing it in such a selfish way. We can't truly be selfless until we know what we authentically and truly desire, and we are contributing that. Anything else is selfish. If you are out there contributing from an inauthentic space, you are being selfish because you're contributing for the desire of feeling better about yourself, about looking better to the world and to other people. You're not doing it because it's what you are authentically designed to contribute to this life and what you authentically value and want for this life. You're doing it for an image, which is selfish. It is only when we are authentically aligned with what we were designed to desire in this life. When we stop resisting that, that is the only time that we have the opportunity to experience the fulfillment of true contribution and selflessness. That isn't about this people-pleasing, needing to feel good enough about ourselves and prove our worth, and that's why we're contributing. We need to reconnect with our true desires, my friends. Our disconnection from them is what's creating the suffering that we see in the world around us. And a true desire is never about getting away from something you don't like about life. Now, when we go after true desires, by default, and we change the problems in our life, by default, we will end up away from some of the problems that you currently feel like you want to escape. But here's the big difference. You will be moving toward something you want, not trying to get away from those problems. So when you arrive anywhere in that journey that starts to feel unsafe, scary, uncertain, uncomfortable, you have that vision to keep pulling you forward through those new problems, instead of believing that these new problems are a sign that you went the wrong way, or that you did it wrong, or that something is off, or that you're not aligned, and that you need to get away from these new problems really fast. And then your primitive brain will provide you with very clear reactive directions right back to the old familiar patterns in life that you originally got away from. And then you'll create more belief for yourself that you're just not capable of change. And this is why changing because something is bad enough is not the direction we want to go in. We have no access to a vision where we want to go when we are making change from the space of something is bad enough to change. And we will always end up right back to where we're trying to run away from every time. Our governments are doing it, businesses are doing it, and it's because they're being run by people who run their lives in this way, who use this type of motivation for change in their personal life. And we see it in how countries are evolving and how governments are evolving and how economies are evolving and how our environment is evolving. Because it's full of a bunch of reactive people who are making decisions from this space of life is too bad here, get away from it. And we haven't learned our lesson yet that that's not the part of the brain that we use to create change. That part of the brain served us thousands of years ago when we were being chased down by animals that wanted to kill us. And we had nowhere to hide from them. And we had to be super vigilant. And we had to be in that fight or flight reactive state constantly to stay alive and survive. We are no longer at that space in life anymore, but we are still acting like it with how we make decisions about change in life. And everything around us is reflecting that. And as more and more people are on this planet reacting to life in this way, it gets more and more chaotic as those results multiply in life around us. More and more people running away from what they don't want, and no one is moving towards what they truly want. Or hardly anyone is. Truly innovative inventions, businesses, changes are the ones that align with a future vision of purpose that is authentic for them. And know that on the way, they will get to a place of new problems. That's the point. They will get to places of new problems constantly, and they will solve for them and keep moving towards that vision of purpose as they move through these new problems. Not just trying to get away from the current problems they're facing. Going back is never an option here, because the primitive brain is not making the decisions. The cerebral cortex is, the higher part of our brain, that knows what it is and can align us with what we truly want. And because of this, signals of fear, doubt, shame, guilt, uncertainty, discomfort, whatever they are, they can still be there, but it doesn't derail movement forward and cause us to go right back to the same things that we just solved for, or actually didn't solve for, we were trying to solve for. So I will also want to be clear here, in case you didn't catch that in what I just said here. I am not promoting resisting the primitive brain. It's there for a reason. Understanding it and why it urges us to react in the way it does, that's what I'm promoting. And then using that from our cerebral cortex for us to move forward in life, towards the life we want, instead of the reactive cycles that the primitive brain runs when we let it take the driver's seat. We're not kicking the primitive brain out of the car. We're not telling it to shut up. But we can listen to it without reacting to it, without giving into its urges. We can get it on board with us and show it how its desires aren't wrong, but its ways of going about seeing those desires is misguided. And we can align those primitive desires with our true desires so that our expression and how we show up in life is fully aligned. And we're able to be the empowered human beings that we were designed to be, that we were put on this planet to be and create from. And create the lives we truly want without the urges and reactions of the primitive brain derailing us. Because here's another thing that I see. I see people that start making decisions from the higher part of their brain. And they get out into this new territory, and the primitive brain starts being the primitive brain that it's always been. It's not going to stop being that. And because the tactic was to resist the primitive brain just gets louder and louder and louder until you finally listen to it by reacting to it. Because to you, for a lot of people out there, that's the only way to respond to the primitive brain is to react to it. And when the options are either react or resist, then it doesn't matter even if you are using your cerebral cortex, because you'll eventually get to the point where that primitive brain is going to speak so quickly and so loudly, you're not going to be able to hear what's going on in your cerebral cortex, in your higher brain, because you're trying to get the primitive brain to shut up so that you can keep moving forward, instead of just allowing it to be there, allowing it to come along, allowing it to have its urges, hearing its urges, and then redirecting how we respond to them instead of reacting to them. That's what makes all of the difference. And then also letting go of this idea that because these urges are there, that means there's something wrong with us, and that we'll just always be like having to resist it. And, we might as well just enjoy life instead of just constantly resisting our primitive brain. And this is just who I am and the kind of person that I am, and I'm never going to be able to get it. Well, yeah, if you look at it from the perspective of these urges are something that has to be reacted to, otherwise it's going to kill us, or we're just going to have to resist it for the rest of our life, then yes, I can see why you would see your life this way and why change seems like something that you're never going to want to do. But when we can learn how to listen to the primitive part of our brain and be like, all right, I see you. I hear what you're wanting there. I hear your need. I hear your desire here. Here's our true desire. How do we align these? How do we make them match? How do we make them work together to create a vision towards the future that we all really want? That's the secret sauce there, my friends. That's the spot we want to be in. Making decisions from that higher brain without shoving the primitive brain into the background and trying to resist it as long as possible so we can launch ourselves away from it, because then we make the primitive brain the thing that's bad enough, the problem that we need to get away from. And as I said, anytime we're running away from a problem, we end up recreating it. Don't make your primitive brain a problem. It's not a problem. It's not something that's bad enough that we need to run away from. It's something we need to understand and account for and show up with our power and responsibility as humans to still create the lives that we want with that primitive brain still being there and doing what it's designed to do. But we make the decisions for change not from the primitive brain. The key here is that we want to begin using our true human deciding power and choosing to run away, move away, get away, avoid things that we don't think that we like about life. That's not deciding power. That's reactive power. Deciding power is about deciding what we do want and moving toward it. Anything else is reactivity. It's reactivity. Anything that gets left behind in the process of making decisions about what we want for life, it gets left behind. But not because we're running from it. Not because we need it to be gone in order to have the life that we want. But because we're releasing it. Because it wasn't able and didn't want to come with us on the journey where we want to head. That is deciding power. And that is what I want you all to get out of this episode. We as a society and individually, we are so stuck in this pattern of thinking we are making decisions for our life when really we are letting the primitive brain, the primitive part of our brain, convince us to react to life, to avoid discomfort, without ever allowing our higher brain to decide what we actually want for life and choose the discomfort that comes with creating that life and letting the rest go. Release and grow into the life we want, not resist and shrink down to get away from the life we don't want. That's the other thing I need you all to see here. When we are in that reactive, primitive part of our brain, when we are avoiding and running away, we are shrinking our life. Let's be real about that here, and I want you to truly see that. What you are avoiding is a part of life. It is a reality of life. It is a part of life. It's not something that, like, if you hate it long enough, it's going to go away. Pain is a part of life. And avoiding it means shrinking your life because you're saying that is a part of life that I do not accept. I do not want to find solutions for it or how to move through it. I just am going to say I can't handle it. It needs to be away from me. So you have to shrink your life to avoid it, that part of life. And because that is a part of life that you are trying to keep out, your life shrinks. And the more we do this, the smaller our lives become. And the smaller our lives become, the more we feel trapped and stuck in these patterns of avoidance. And we begin to believe truly, because there's less and less of life in our life, we begin to believe truly, no, it's just a fact. I can't change. I really can't. The smaller our lives get, the more we shrink them down, and these cycles of resistance and running away get more and more rapid and small, the more we create evidence for ourselves that we are not capable of change because life is so small that evidence looks so huge because we've shut down the vastness of the reality of life from us because we were trying to avoid and get away from things that we feel are painful and uncomfortable about life. I want to invite you to a different path, my friends. A new way of truly deciding for your life what you want. What you want. And recognize that even when you have that, yes, there will be problems, there will be pain. That's okay. It's part of being alive. We want that. And we can own that pain, own those obstacles because we know that they are building us into the version of ourselves that we were this entire time and forgot, and we're learning how to show up as. That we were designed to be in this life. And that's what I want to call you all forward with in this episode. I want you to notice in your life. I want you to notice in your community. I want you to notice in your schools, in your church, in your job, in your government, in your economy, in the world around you. The results of reactivity. Look at what is going on around us because of that. Look at how we just keep repeating patterns and saying people don't ever change. Nobody ever really learns. Well, why do you think that is? Do you think that's just true about life? I don't think it is. I think it's because we have avoided our true human power to actually create change. We've been taught to avoid it for so long that we actually believe that we're not capable of change. We've been taught to use this model of resistance and run away from things being bad enough for so long that we've bought into this quote unquote reality that that's just life. People don't change. Things don't change. And I want to invite you to realize that doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be true at all. And if you really look in life, you'll find the examples of it. You'll find the examples of the people that stopped trying to run away from things because they're bad enough, started owning their life and owning their decision-making power, started knowing what they truly wanted and stopped being ashamed of it, and started showing up in their life in the truest and most authentic way to contribute what they were here to contribute to life. Even if people made fun of them, resisted them, rejected them, they showed up for it, and they felt fulfilled by their life, and they truly changed. If you really look, you're going to find examples of this in life. And what I want you to begin to recognize is that these aren't flukes of people with special traits that only some people have. These are examples of people that weren't using the model of, oh, things are bad enough, gotta change, gotta run away from this, it's too uncomfortable now, it's too painful now, gotta get away from this. They stopped using that cycle and chose to see what they truly wanted out of life, and chose to show up for their life to create it. And I want to offer you all the opportunity to do the same. This is the secret sauce in the work that I do with my clients. It is the secret sauce. It is the core, the foundation of what I do with my clients, as well as the implementation part. But if this sounds like something that you want to look into, let's talk. Let's talk about it. This is the most important decision you can make for your life, my friends. Believe me, I know I was right there with you. So if this sounds like something they're like, yeah, you know what? I'm ready to try a different path. I'm ready to move towards what I truly want. I'm ready to see what it is that I authentically want so that I even know what it is that I want to move towards. If that sounds like something inside of you, let's talk. Let's talk. Just head over to my website. It's linked in the show notes below. It's www.lifecoachseth.com. Really easy. www.lifecoachseth.com, and you can book your free consultation call there with me. We can talk about what it is that's going on in your life, what it is that you feel stuck in, and how it is that authenticity is going to pull you into the life that you are truly designed to feel fulfilled and thrive in. I want to invite every single one of you all to that. All you have to do is reach out. I'm here to talk, okay? That's what I've got for you all today. And I want to get you all started on this new path towards the life that we truly want. Stop sitting around and waiting for things to be bad enough to change. Let's be that change that we wish our governments, our countries, and the world would implement instead of sitting around and waiting for it to be bad enough. Let's be examples of it in our own life. Let's start breaking the pattern in our own lives. And I want to help you get started on that new path. For the rest of you, I'll see you again here next week. I love you all. Ciao. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the content of this podcast. If you did, please subscribe so that you're one of the first people to know when I release a new episode each week. If you have any questions, or if you have interest in learning more about the coaching that I do with my clients one-on-one, then just head over to my website at www.lifecoachseth.com. That's www.lifecoachseth.com. There you're going to have the ability to reach out to me for questions that you might have, or to book your free discovery call with me to discuss what one-on-one coaching with me might be like for you. You can also check out and order your copy of my book to get a taste of what I'm all about as a person and as a coach. I'm so happy that you joined us today, and I hope to have you here again next week. So until then, let authenticity be the guide to your most unstoppable and fulfilling journey of life.